Floyd! Floyd! I'll knock you out! He's sick, look at him.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Brian Norman says his footwork won't be a problem, as he's ready to prove his quality against Devin Haney. And what could be an eye-opening fight, both ways it goes. For how much Brian Norman isn't on Devin Haney's level, or how much he is. Brian Norman Jr. recently spent some time talking to Fight Hype about his upcoming welterweight title defense against Devin Haney and why it's a well-matched fight for both participants. That said, Norman says he'll prove on the night that he's superior to Haney in all areas as he looks to secure a win over the biggest name opponent on his resume to date. Norman, on those who think Haney's footwork will give him problems. I couldn't find any chickens, but it was a couple of pit bulls outside. They are very agile, believe it or not. I was trying my best. I got bit a few times, so it's a part of the game, a part of what I signed up for, but his footwork won't be a problem at all. When I step into the ring, I will actually have the better feet. I will have the better jab. Define better. What makes one jab better than the other when it's a punch that can be thrown for a variety of reasons? Whether or not it lands, I think. Whose jab is getting in and whose jab isn't. I will actually have the better jab. I will actually have whatever you're trying to say he's good at. And if he has any concerns about Haney's punching power, I don't care about any of that. I feel like regardless of, let's say he was the meanest and hardest puncher, guess what? I can hit hard too. What if I can make you miss and make you pay? What if your rockets don't land? If you don't hit the target, did it do anything at all? No. So you can have the biggest sniper, Desert Eagle, I got my little tutu, or whatever, and I'm just gonna keep on spotting you. Pop, pop, pop. You're dead by the end of the day. That's all that matters. What everybody's expecting from Devin is for him to stay on his toes, moving around, and sticking the jab out there, a get-off-me jab, which is a lot different from a step jab, that you're stepping into a stiff jab to bring other punches over. The intention is entirely different. Get off me! People are expecting Devin to throw get-off-of-me jabs, keep off-of-me jabs. There's not a lot of power on those jabs, because you're on the balls of your feet, you're not stepping into them, you're instead on your toes, moving away from the target, where Brian is more likely to step into his jab to bring his backhand over. If anybody's going to be shooting a power jab, I would think it would be Brian. On sparring Najee Lopez in preparation for this fight, let me tell you something. That's a big boy. I'm not sparring him for real laughs. So now, have we got in the ring and moved around a little bit? Most definitely. He is real sharp as well, real long and real technical. And I'll say, he's just like me, pretty much, but an even bigger version. He's a great fighter, and of course, not just being in the ring with him, being around him as a person has helped me out a lot. This fight is the co-main event to the main event, Benavidez versus Yard. Oddly enough, this is the fight that's being talked about more, the fight between Devin and Brian, likely because it involves two Americans as opposed to an American and a Brit. Likely because Devin and Brian are both unbeaten fighters, whereas Anthony Yard, he's already suffered 3 losses. You don't have to wonder what it would look like if Anthony Yard lost to David Benavidez, because he's already lost before, 3 times, to 3 different fighters, whereas Devin is arguably unbeaten, and Brian is too. That makes it intriguing, perhaps a bit more intriguing than the main event. Adding to that intrigue is Devin Haney's last performance, which most people thought was a stinker, him running around the ring like a chicken with its head cut off from a slow-footed plotter in Jose Ramirez, and the question, is he about to do that with Brian? And if he does try to do that with Brian, is Brian going to be able to catch him, to keep up with him? That's why there's this big emphasis on footwork in this fight. Will Brian be able to keep up with and keep on Devin Haney to apply pressure? Because if he can't, then the fight is already lost. Footwork is pivotal to the victory for Brian Norman. He has to be able to cut the ring off, and I know that may seem a cookie-cutter comment, especially now. Almost generic. How many times you hear people saying, you gotta cut the ring off? Sometimes saying it when they don't even really know what it means. All the same, that's what Brian has to do. He has to close off Devin Haney's exits as he backs him into the ropes. 2 unload combinations, 2 unload punches and bunches. That's pivotal to the victory too. You can't just throw single jabs. You gotta double up on those jabs. Triple. You gotta throw combinations because Devin Haney is a pure boxer. And if there's one thing that pure boxers don't like, it's pressure. It's pressure fighters, it's pressure fighting. There have been times in the past where Devin Haney has tried to break character, mix it up on the inside to his own detriment. If he tries that with Bryan, he's doing half the work for him. Though given how he looked in his last fight, how he fought like a chicken with its head cut off, nobody's expecting Devin to mix it up with Bryan in the pocket. They're expecting he's going to stay on his toes, move around, shoot and keep off of me jabs to win a ho-hum decision like he did in his last fight. Bryan has to stop that from happening, and the way you do it is cutting off the ring and applying pressure. You can't look to do Devin with a single shot, 1 or 2 punches at a time. You have to throw 3 and 4 punches at a time, because maybe the first 3 miss, or maybe the first 3 get blocked, but the last 2 might get in.
Do damage.
Some interpret Devin Haney's last performance as Devin being shell-shocked from the beating that he took in the Ryan Garcia fight, that he may be putting on a brave face for the public, but underneath it all, he's scared to get hit.
So he's gonna get on his bike and stay on it.
So Bryan has got to take the air out of the tires, and that's easier said than done against a moving target, but that's the assignment. I've a rooting interest in a Bryan Norman victory. His fights are more entertaining. He as a person seems like an original, whereas Devin is just another cookie-cutter fighter trying to be this era's Mayweather.
Where we don't need another one, and we don't want one.
So you can give Devin credit for fighting the fights, but the fights themselves, the way that he fights them, isn't often entertaining. Boxing is about action. That's what people stay up late to see. The action, the brutality. Devin ain't the kind of fighter that provides that. I think the division would be a lot better off if Bryan kept his belt. I've a rooting interest in a Bryan Norman victory.
In men's super middleweight news, reps for Edgar Berlanga say Armando Resendiz in talks for a fight early next year. The handlers of Edgar Berlanga and Jose Armando Resendiz are in talks for the super middleweights to fight in the first quarter of next year, sources told The Ring on Monday. Berlanga is coming off a 5th-round knockout loss to Hamza Shiraz in July. Resendiz scored a major upset split decision win over Caleb Plant back in May.
You figure that if Caleb Plant would have won, that would have been him fighting Edgar early next year. As they've minced words before, there's some history between them. If Caleb would have won, that would have been him fighting Edgar. But Armando won, so he's got the golden ticket. Armando Resendiz, who won a secondary WBA title when he defeated Caleb Plant, and so he's in line to become WBA champion so long as he can stay in the winner's bracket. Jose has lost 2 fights before, and so has Edgar.
But Jose is coming off a win. Edgar's coming off a loss.
And what would be another chapter in the Puerto Rico versus Mexico rivalry, with Brooklyn's Berlanga representing the island and Resendiz, a native of Mexico. The 28-year-old Berlanga's other defeat came via a decision against Canelo Alvarez in September of last year. Resendiz, 26, is the ring's number 6 ranked super middleweight. He was stopped by Elijah Garcia in round 8 of their September 2023 meeting. His other loss was an upset decision to Marcos Hernandez before that in 2021. Needless to say that Jose Armando Resendiz has put distance between himself and those 2 losses. He's back in the winner's bracket, coming off of the biggest win of his career over former champion Caleb Plant, and now they're serving him up Edgar.
What do I think?
Think Edgar's in his shit now. I think he's up Shit's Creek without a paddle, coming off a knockout loss, set to face another live animal in Armando Resendiz, a byproduct of his free agency.
He wanted to be free.
2 fights ago, he fought his final fight under the Matchroom banner, and he decided not to re-up and not to re-sign with them. Next thing you know, he's boxing Hamza on one of Turkey's shows, and he gets his block knocked off. Now, the same thing might happen with Armando Resendiz, who I think is a better fighter, better all around than Edgar Berlanga.
Edgar sucks.
On his way to becoming a well-known gatekeeper, is what I see, all of which is a byproduct of his free agency. Because had he re-signed with Matchroom and stayed over there, they would have built him up a bit more before throwing him to the wolves, like what they did when they first signed him. En route to the Canelo Alvarez fight, they kept him in winnable fights until such a time as they could cash him out. And if he would have re-signed with them, they would have did that again for him. He would have had the chance to get back in the winner's bracket. Whereas this
is caught in disaster.
because he's a free agent and because Armando Resendiz is with the PBC, that tells me that it will be them at the helm of the promotion, and this will likely be part of some pay-per-view.
Still don't know if this is going to be a co-main, a main, just an undercard fight.
The way the PBC has been bunching all their guys together to stack their cards, since they do so few of them, it's conceivable that this will be part of a pay-per-view.
Edgar's fucking with the PBC.
Well, he's already been to Top Rank and he's already worked with Matchroom, so next is the PBC. What he might find appealing about working with them is they're doing pay-per-views almost exclusively now, and he fancies himself a pay-per-view attraction.
Delusional.
Coming off of his second loss, he still thinks he's some kind of a draw, and he's still looking for big money. Pay-per-view affords him a way to get it, an avenue.
In theory it does, if people buy the pay-per-view, except people are buying less and less pay-per-views over time and turning to illegal streams for their boxing fix. So while the PBC might enable Edgar's delusions of grandeur, he's gonna hit a wall. In more ways than one, Armando Resendiz is best described as a close-quarters fighter, a pressure fighter. Kind of guy that's going to crash the pocket, crowd you, and throw punches in bunches. Where Edgar's style seems to live somewhere in between a pure boxer and a boxer-puncher. He strikes me as a fighter caught between styles, having an identity crisis. When Top Rank were promoting him, they promoted him as a big puncher. He goes over to Matchroom, he starts focusing on a sweet science. Not a knockout merchant anymore, no, he's focused on the sweet science, the X's and O's. Not being good at either doesn't really help his plight. Free agency is not all it's cracked up to be. It was actually Boxing Beats and Rhymes that pointed it out. The common denominator between two fighters who decided to go for free agency upon leaving Matchroom is Keith Connolly. Both Richardson Hitchens and Edgar Berlanga decided not to re-sign, and they're both suffering for it now, as Richardson Hitchens, in spite of being a champion, is stuck in limbo without a fight date, and Edgar, he's about to get his ass kicked. Keith Connolly manages them both. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that he's the one who advised them to not to re-sign with Matchroom, likely thinking that they could negotiate with Turkey LL Sheik directly. No dice. Accenting what I'm always telling you about these fighters and their managers. They're just fucking greedy. They're never realistic about who they are to the sport, the division. They're never realistic about the money. Always looking for a come-up. Always looking for more. If you let them have it their way, it's always supposed to work out to where they get more money, even when they're not good for it. That's Edgar's problem. He's got superstar demands with club-level ability. I don't mind a fight. I don't mind watching Jose beat the crap out of this guy. Should be fun. Now over to the last guy that beat the crap out of Edgar. Hamza Shiraz awaits clarity on opponent for February return. 3.5 months after his explosive stoppage win over Edgar Berlanga in New York, there's no clarity over Hamza Shiraz's next move. He and his promoter Frank Warren were actively waiting for the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford result and after effects to shake out, though the latter is likely to pursue a middleweight move after his impressive points win on September 13th saw him claim the Ring Magazine and undisputed super middleweight titles. It's not likely that Terence stays at super middle, fights Hamza Shiraz. Frank and Hamza know that, but what they don't know is who's Hamza gonna fight next. I'm just staying active in the gym, disciplined with my strength and conditioning work, staying healthy, feeling strong, he said. It's important to let the team do their job and not let outside noise stress me. I know what's to come, just have to keep producing good performances. February is the likely month and there are loads of options to pursue. Could return to the UK, the United States, or Saudi. Once they send me a contract and terms are agreed, I'll get cracking. Sheeraz, 22-0 with 1 draw and 18 knockouts, has featured on Riyadh season shows or cards supported by Turkey LL Sheik in his last 4 appearances and calls that slot a priority, but remains open to world-level matchups with Jaime Munguia,
or Christian Mbilli. The 26-year-old's manager, Spencer Brown, told The Ring they've been promised a February return by El Sheikh against a big name in the absence of an injured Canelo. The man himself spoke of an expectation to be fighting Diego Pacheco next before it was announced that Matchroom-backed Contender would headline the December 13th show in Stockton, California against Kevin Lele Sajo. That would be too quick a turnaround for Diego, even if he wins. Fight in December, then fight Hamza in February.
Only way that works out is if Diego knocks out Kevin Lele Sajo with relative ease. If he kills him quick, then maybe.
Nothing has been clarified regarding Jaime Munguia's immediate future yet. 2 months after the longtime contender was cleared of any wrongdoing after failing a PED test following his 12-round points win over Bruno Surace on May 4th, WBC interim title holder Christian Mbilli is said to be assessing his options after an entertaining 10-round split draw with Nicaragua's unbeaten Lester Martinez as part of the Canelo vs. Crawford undercard. Mbilli is a great fighter and interim champion, a knockout specialist, and we would have all the ingredients to make for a fan-friendly fight, Sheeraz said when asked about that potential bout being made. I'd look forward to Munguia too. They're all the same caliber of fighter, strong and experienced. At this stage, it's up to me to stay in my flow state, enjoying the experience and giving the fans what they want to see. I think one of those fights is a bit more winnable than the other. Christian Mbilli is a pressure fighter, so is Jaime Munguia, but Jaime got knocked out by a Frenchman with only 5 knockouts. If little old Bruno Surace can put you on the canvas, Hamza can put you on the canvas.
It's not saying that it's a foregone conclusion that Hamza wins, but of those two pressure fighters, Jaime looks more vulnerable, at least right now.
Whereas Christian Mbilli is showing more and more that he's not just a pressure guy, but a really durable one. He showed that in the Carlos Gongora fight, and he showed that more recently in the Lester the Molester fight. He took some heavy shots in that fight, but he didn't go down, and he didn't go out. Right now, he seems more durable than Jaime Munguia, so on that predication, the Munguia fight looks to be a bit more winnable.
Marginally.
Sheeraz's head coach, Andy Ree, has endured a down spell of results after high-profile defeats for Paddy Donovan and Joseph Parker in recent weeks. Ben Whittaker makes his second appearance under the Irishman later this month, and Sheeraz reiterated a reason why they all back the former WBO middleweight champion in their corner. He believes in me more than I do myself. Cliche, but it's true. So when you have someone like that in your corner, it gives you crazy amounts of self-belief and discipline, he added. I'm learning a lot under him, happy and just waiting for a date. As far as that down spell that Andy Ree has suffered,
You know that there's a legitimate argument that both his boys got screwed? That Paddy Donovan got screwed in the Lewis Crocker rematch. Outside of the 2 knockdowns, Lewis didn't do a lot.
but they gave Lewis the decision over Paddy. Paddy got screwed, and Joseph Parker got screwed by Howard Foster with that premature stoppage. There is a legitimate argument that in spite of that down spell involving 2 of Andy's fighters, it's really just they got screwed.
Back over to Hamza and who he might fight in February, I've seen Jaime Munguia express the same interest in fighting Hamza that Hamza has expressed in fighting him. So maybe those 2 boys will fight in February, and if they do, I'm certainly not against it.